look really hot. That looks really, ooh.
Is that better?
Oh, yes. Hello, Jesse King. You have
Hello.
arrived. Jesse Queen, but it's really Jesse King.
True story.
The Queen has arrived. So I really would love to hear your journey from like really serial entrepreneur. Let's go from the very beginning where you're born and the whole. I know we're going back, honey. Let's
All right, we'll go back.
ready.
So born in BC, McBride, Lambing Mills is where my parents lived. My parents are very interesting human beings. They were true hippies, trying to live off the land in the 70s. When I was very young, still a baby, we moved to a piece of land that my dad's family owns in Cape Breton. And I literally grew up in a 2-room log cabin wooden shack. And this is honestly true. We had our couch, our sofa was made of wood. My dad made it. Our toilet was an outhouse. And my parents gardened and hunted, and my dad fished, worked on the oil rigs off of Sable Island. And yeah, we were
True pioneers of the land, I would say.
my parents, my mother was a survivalist in the truest sense. And after my parents divorced when I was 5, we moved to the bustling town of Glace Bay. You may be familiar with Coal Miner's Daughter.
No, sorry.
That's okay. And
how'd you get to Calgary?
Okay, how did I get to Calgary? Well, when I graduated from high school, I went to the University of King's College. I got scholarships to go, even though I was a young teenage mother. So I had a child very young, and despite that, I continued to do really, really well in school. Got scholarships to go to university. And I lived in Halifax with my son and did 4 years of university, first at the University of King's College and then at St. Mary's. And then I moved to Calgary. And I worked in community rehabilitation for 8 years. Are you familiar with community rehabilitation?
Not really, but it sounds like a stressful gig. That's a little stressful.
That is an understatement.
Oh.
We're both drinking
our tea?
Mm-hmm.
Or taking a moment before the stress hits.
Yeah. So my older sister has Down syndrome. She is the coolest, smartest, most righteous babe. Seriously, she is like, yeah, she's the truth teller. And watching her struggles when we were kids really propelled me towards this work in community rehabilitation, but more generally, to work in social work, to work with vulnerable people. And so I did that for a long time. I worked primarily with adults who were duly diagnosed, who had a mental illness and a developmental disability. And my job was to help them be in the community in the way that they chose to be in the community.
How many years?
8 years.
Wow, that's a long time to hang into that. That's a lot.
It was so rewarding. It was so stressful. And there's a lot of bureaucracy, which I'm not somebody who deals well with bureaucracy. And so I realized that that wasn't going to be my forever job. And so at 33, I thought, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah. The life
And
story.
actually, I've done that every year, I think, since I was about 15. Had this come to self moment about who I am and who I want to be and how close or far I am from that person. And so I've always been obsessed with food. I think it is the most magical thing in that you can love somebody so fully with food. You can express your culture with food. You can make this experience for someone where you take this ordinary thing and you transform it into something that they remember for years. Amazing, amazing. So I knew I wanted to be work in the food industry in some way. So I did that for a couple. Actually, my husband and I backpacked around Central America for 6 months while I tried to figure out what my next move was. And then when I came back, I started a catering company called Zen and the Art of Dinner.
Gosh, I wish I went there.
Yeah, so I did. At the time, I was eating mostly plants. And so I catered to people that had more restrictive diets, mostly plant-based and vegan. This was like a long time ago, so it wasn't really the thing it is now. And then at some point, I realized that I didn't have the foundation, like I didn't have the seed, right? The thing that you grow your tree from. I was missing that. So I went to culinary school to do my red seal, and I did that. I loved it. I won the Dean's Award for Excellence. And then I spent the next bunch of years really working in the fine dining industry in Calgary.
And you were 33 when you shifted into the food industry?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's inspiring. Because I feel a lot of people are like, oh, I'm 30. I'm just going to stick to what I learned and what I did. I can't shift.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
No, this is honestly.
And you did it with a small child. You did all of this with a small child.
I did. Well, I mean, by the time I was 33, he wasn't a small child anymore.
No, then you're dealing with a teenager, no?
Yes.
That's insane.
Yes. And a teenager like his mother. And so I think that the way that my mother raised us was to question everything, to take everything to the source, to not take anything at face value, to do your own research. And this caused me a bunch of trouble when I was a younger person, and still now, I suppose. But I raised my son the same way. It makes for a very difficult child. My son is brilliant, but he definitely is my child. So, I mean, we worked together through his teenage years to figure that out. So it wasn't easy.
I don't think anyone's teenage years are easy.
No, you're right.
So when you got into the food, so now you're at creating Zen and the Art of Dinner, fine dining.
Yeah.
Zen and the Art of...
Yeah. So Zen and the Art of Dinner was a project that I did before I went to culinary school.
Right, and then you wanted the seed, so you went to culinary school and you got your red seal.
Yes.
Is that easy to do? That sounds hard because it feels like a seal.
It's an investment of time. Because you have to do so many hours and then you have to go to school. So you have to do a year of school, then you have to do so many hours and then another year of school.
Is it like a master's in cooking kind of?
Yes.
Is there a seal above the red? Is there a different color? A black seal? No, just a red seal. That's like the top of the top.
It's the top of the top. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
That is
And
very cool. Yeah.
it's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Is it mainly dominated by men, red sealers?
yeah, yes, absolutely. I think there were, I'm gonna say five, 4 or 5 women in my so in the first year there's more women, and then in the second year there's less women, and then in the final year there's less women.
Yeah. Is it
So
hard to kind of like work alongside men at that caliber in the sense that it's pretty, like I've seen Chef Ramsay. Like, is it like you need a strong woman to kind of be like, yo, step it back, yo? Like, I don't know. That's me just going like, You could tell me the
yeah,
story for real because I wasn't there.
no, no.
Yeah.
Well, I
In
mean,
my head, that's what I'm seeing.
yeah, no, you're totally right. So
Yeah.
I mean, I guess what I would say is, out of the last 5 meals that you ate in a restaurant, how many of them were truly delicious?
That's a really good question.
So
very little. Unless I ask you for recommendations, then it's been good.
yeah. So why do you think that is? Do you think that it's a failure of the restaurant? Just all the meals they put out are shit? Do you think that it's a bad night? Do you think that it's a bad chit? Your meal, something went wrong? How do you think that a bad meal gets to the table most of the time?
Bad quality food, just like fast food being quick instead of like really creating the art of an experience, thinking about the different textures and like I'm not you gotta take this one, honey. You tell me the answer because I'm trying and it's not working. So
okay. Well, I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. I only know my opinion of what I think the answer is.
You can throw it out there.
So what I think is the number of people that have to do it just perfect to get that really great plate to the table. There are a lot of things that need to go right for that to happen. To organize that, to make sure that all of the right people are in the right spots.
Yeah.
From the moment your order is taken or the moment you walk in the door of the restaurant to the moment that plate comes to the table, the amount of people that need to stick the dismount, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And so the reason that I was so attracted to that industry is it's like this perfect, it has to be, or it can be this perfect meeting of organization. I'm very type A. I like things very organized, and cooperation, art, a foundational understanding. I like history of things. So it's sort of this opportunity for all of these things to come together in this way that then presents itself in this one plate of food in front of you. And that plate of food starts in the organization of your mise en place. It starts at the organization of your walk-in, right? So it's a very complex thing to make happen. So the answer to is it a male-dominated industry and Chef Ramsay and really tough? Absolutely. I think that it requires a certain amount of ego to be in that industry. And I think men, for the most part, gravitate towards professions that allow them to express their ego.
So how did you like survive that? Because that feels very stressful. Well, I guess you already kind of survived a stressful job for 8 years. That kind of like feels like the right transition, I would say.
I have a giant ego. So
it worked well.
That helps. I always felt that I was a really fantastic chef and that I had something to say. And so I wasn't intimidated, um, but I also was humbled. I was humbled by the amount of work that it takes to make a dollar in that
Right.
industry. And in my time in that industry, I blew out both my arms. I've had surgery in both of my arms. Um, and the other thing too is it doesn't respect a work-life balance. And as I move, I'm going to be 46 in a couple of days.
Happy birthday.
Um, and as I move into this part of my life, this next phase of my life, I feel like I no longer have anything to prove.
Mm-hmm.
And so the have you ever read Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain?
No, but if you'd like me to, I will.
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
Everything that he says about the restaurant industry is true. Um, and it's a industry that really fetishizes
Yeah. Okay.
how hard you can work, how much you can sacrifice. Oh, I worked 17 hours yesterday and then I slept in my car. No, actually, I worked 17 hours yesterday, then I drank a bottle of wine, then I slept in my car, then I got up the next morning and I showered in the sink and I was back on the line. These are the narratives that run this industry. And so if you're an 18-year-old boy or 20-year-old boy or 20-year-old girl, you can find you can find the excitement in that. You can find the thrill of thriving in that because it really is an accomplishment. But when you're a 45-year-old woman, it sort of loses its shine.
So after you transitioned out of food, where did you go?
So,
Because
I'm still in food.
We're still in food.
I'm still in food even right now.
Okay. So
right now I do restaurant consulting. So this piece that I talked to you earlier about all the things that need to go right in order for this plate that somebody's going to write a great Yelp review about to land on the table. This does not happen by accident. This is a strategic plan that somebody has to put in place. And the interesting thing about the restaurant industry is somebody can say, I have some savings and I can make a really great lasagna that my grandma used to make, and I'm going to invest all my money in this and start this business. This doesn't happen. Like nobody says, I really, learned to be a great debater from my grandfather, so I'm going to start a law firm. No. But in the restaurant industry, people can just have an idea that they think is good and put their money where their mouth is. And this is why most of the meals we eat out suck, because there's a strategic planning piece of this that is essential. So this is where I try to help restaurateurs put this plan together. So I do that. And I own 2 businesses in the cannabis sector, which is a very interesting place to be right now in Canada, I guess in North America. So I own an edibles company. So again, with the food, when I was a chef, I was very interested. I'm still interested in food science. So I've sort of taken this traditional knowledge of like traditional candy making and food safety practices, this side, and have blended it with, what have I blended it with? I've blended it with the
palette that rocks.
Yeah, my palette that rocks.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. And I'm
decided to get into cannabis because again, that feels for me like, well, I'm not you, I'm not gutsy. Like, well, okay. But I would say like that is a male dominated field again.
Absolutely.
Right. Like how many women are really going to go into that? Like I know a lot of people in cannabis and you're the only person I know as a female entrepreneur. in cannabis?
Yeah. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is. I know that for myself, right now, I seek out female, uh, other female uh, business entrepreneurs, uh, hustlers,
Hustlers!
hustlers. Um, and because I really think that women bring, especially to male dominated industry,
Mm-hmm.
a nuance, a finesse, an attention to detail that's so necessary. And in the cannabis industry, especially in the edibles industry, it is so important to not be an outlaw, just throwing a bunch of shit in a pan and feeding it to people. Like, so dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I so strongly believe in plants as medicine.
Right.
Cannabis is a plant.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to use this as medicine in a way that's impactful and meaningful to you, that isn't dangerous, that you're not playing Russian roulette every time you put a candy in your mouth. You don't
Right.
know. This I find very offensive, that this is so prevalent in the industry. And it's absolutely the reason why I started Rosebud,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought, I want to get this into the hands of my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
of my next door
As a
neighbor.
medicinal, something to help.
Absolutely.
Because you don't see a
Absolutely.
lot of grandmas sitting there smoking a.
1,000,000%.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they will have a candy. But if you feed this candy to somebody, or you encourage them to eat it, and it's, it says that it's 10 milligrams, it's 40 milligrams, they have a terrible trip, they call 911 on themselves. This happens all the time. Then you've done so much harm to this person in the acute now.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward, you've probably wrecked for them the ability to use this medicine again in the future.
Mm-hmm.
You've hurt the industry as a whole by being yet
Wrong
another
dose.
story of a bad experience. So to me, there is such a need to come to this industry from a place of science and a place of transparency, accountability, and to really bring a product to market that people can use, effectively.
Do you find the industry right now is quite regulated, or is it more flax?
Well, it's very interesting because there's two industries right now. There's a bunch of industries. There's the black market, there's the gray market, and there's the white market.
Right.
So all craft, artisan edible makers in Canada are operating in the gray market, because in the white market, you can't have any branding. You can't have, imagine communist China. You go in and there's 5 types of cereal, but the box just says cereal, and
Right.
it's all the same box and all the same. How do you possibly figure out what cereal you like, what cereal is good for what you're feeling right now?
Right. Because
So
yeah, you're right. All the labels are very generic. It's like the Health Canada. It's like that little symbol. It's like there's a very lack of information as to what you're going to be ingesting.
absolutely. So in an attempt to regulate, I think the government has done a huge disservice to people having access to the information. And so until they come around, which they will, I mean, if you read the history of any prohibition and how we evolved out of that, the story is always the same. The narrative follows the same arc. So
Do you
this will as well.
So do you feel this is around the corner, that this gray zone will be eventually white? The reason I'm asking is because I really do feel the industry is already moving in the psilocybin direction. Like the cannabis stores opened. I feel psilocybin, which is shrooms, right? Mushrooms,
Yeah.
is going to be the next step. Do you think as that's kind of moving into that direction that it's going to ease up for more craft-like products that you're doing for Rosebud? Or do you think it's around the corner?
That's such a good question. I wish I had a crystal ball. Um, yeah, it is. So as you're saying, you're talking about psilocybin. I think that that's it's a really good link because a lot of professionals who are working with people with addiction and PTSD, depression, are using psychedelic treatments. And so, as we know, I hate to say this, but as more professional white people use a thing, the more acceptable that thing becomes. So this is the trajectory of the psychedelic treatment. You have, well-known doctors like Gabor Mate, they're using these treatments, and then suddenly people are more open to the using of these treatments.
Right.
So will it become legal? Absolutely. I mean,
Right.
it's inevitable.
We don't know. Like going back to food, because I'm such a foodie.
Yeah.
Okay, a few questions. First, let's go to your favorite palette combo.
My favorite
palette combo. Like, what are two combinations of two different things together that you're like, whoa, everyone should try this?
Right now, I'm very, very interested in like herbaceous things with sweet things. And so, I mean, this is not a unique thing to me, but I really, really like to take, can you do this thing where you picture a raspberry and then you can taste it in your brain?
Yes, it's happening. I love it. Okay. Now what am I trying?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you can not most
it's like at the back it's salivating.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can understand the raspberry.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I like to take a something sweet, like one of those really beautiful winter tangerines with the stem still attached. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know them? You can get them
yes, I know. Yes.
Yeah. And then how can you make that into something unique? So if I taste that in my brain, then I immediately want to put it with rosemary.
I was just gonna say,
right?
That's where I was going. Yes, balance it out. Yes. Bring a little more of it to the front, because when I do rosemary, I bring it here. It's more.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you have this. No, so honestly, most people can't do that.
Oh, I can.
So you have a gift. But I used to own a specialty creme brulee shop. I don't know if you know this about me.
I do, but nobody else watching does.
Yeah. So I started a specialty creme brulee shop in 2015 called Burnt to Order. And it was this idea of a singular focus. So everyone would say, what else are you going to sell other than creme brulee? And I would say, no, nothing, just creme brulee.
Right.
And people said, that can't work. And I said, oh, no, it can. Because this laser focus, this thing, like pick a thing and do that thing really, really fucking well. Like just make it like this thing. Like if you go into a restaurant, there's like 30 pages on the menu or 8 pages on the menu, just walk out.
Yeah.
They're not making anything delicious.
No.
Right?
It's powder and water.
Yeah. So, but I used to do these things with creme brulee. So one of my best sellers was bean and basil.
Ooh, yes. What kind of bean?
Vanilla bean.
Okay.
So it was just a straight up vanilla bean creme brulee.
Yeah.
But then, so it was burnt, and then it was topped with strawberries, micro basil, and 20-year aged balsamic.
That sounds amazing.
It was amazing. And it was completely this thing about you taste the basil. It's not completely original to put basil with strawberry. But how do we bring this into like this creamy richness? How are you going to break that up? Halfway through a creme brulee, you have palate fatigue, right? Your
Right, yeah.
palate is coated with fat. You're feeling some ways about, oh, I don't know if I can finish this, right?
Yeah.
So put a little bit of balsamic on there. Then you're breaking it up. Then you're doing, so you're taking,
Acidity, right.
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
funny. Creme brulee fatigue. CF. I'm gonna see who else suffers from that. Actually, I knew somebody who suffered from, I think it was more about the calories. After dinner, he'd always order creme brulee. It was his go-to dessert. Every restaurant, it was creme brulee, but it was one spoonful. I'm like, are you gonna waste the rest of that? He's like, it's just for the palate. I'm like, so maybe he suffered from CF, creme brulee.
Undiagnosed case.
Probably. So, okay, so if I was to do my blend,
Yeah.
okay, dates.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do with the date, but date, maybe stuff it with blue cheese and a roasted walnut.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, you can have that actually at Una downtown on 17th Avenue. They make it. It's on their menu.
I think I don't have the stamina to be a red sealed, but I have a really crazy palate and I don't know why, but my palate's pretty bomb. I'm not going to lie. We can talk about it later.
Yeah, but you don't have to be a chef. I mean, now you could just start a YouTube channel. Make
Here it
yourself
is.
famous.
Today
right?
we are making stuffed dates with blue cheese and roasted walnut.
Do it.
What was the best meal you've ever had?
That is a great question. So I have two answers to that. I have an R-rated version and a PG version.
Let's go PG for fun. Let's just do PG. I know that's not the fun one, but let's just do PG.
That's okay. Your viewers are going to be very disappointed in you, but that's okay.
And they'll be like, you didn't. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'll just tell you the R-rated version happened on my 40th birthday in San Francisco, and there were firemen involved.
And it was really good, but it was actually tasty.
Yeah, it was the best meal I ever had.
Okay, you'll have to tell me like in private.
Yeah.
Sorry. Right, PG.
So my husband and I were backpacking through Central America, and the only stop that we had that was like a designated resort situation was like right near the end of the trip. So I booked these 4 days on this island called Isla do Metepe, and we checked into this resort, and it was awful. There was just like Texans, and like the food sucked, and everyone was a jerk, and it was terrible. And so I had 2 meals there, and then I said to Mike, I cannot eat another meal here. It is offending. It's offensive. So that night we had been at Burning Man before we went, before we went to Central America. We drove a school bus to Burning Man. And then we stored the school bus in Reno and flew to Guatemala. Anyway, we had these headlamps. We put our headlamps on and we head out from this resort on this island, and we start walking, and Mike is saying, turn off your headlamp, turn off your headlamp. Your eyes will adjust to the dark. And there's no street, like there's not a street lamp. There's no, so we turn our headlamps off, and Mike's like, look, see, you can see. And I'm saying, no, you can't see, I can't see. And Mike's like, no, I can see perfectly. And I'm like, dude, that's not true. I flick my headlight back on, and there's literally a 7-foot tall horse right in front of Mike's face, right there.
What?
Yes, it's absolutely true. Anyway, we make our way out to the road. We walk along this road. We walk. And then eventually we hear noise, and there's a house, and there's obviously something happening in the backyard, and there's just a light.
Thank goodness it was a horse, because I'm just taking a moment and being like, that could have been any animal.
It could have been any animal, and it was literally, I'm not kidding you.
And probably when you first flashed it on, you probably didn't even register what it was in your face. I'm just...
No.
Yeah,
I was like, ah! And Mike was totally like, I saw that horse.
Yeah.
So anyway, we walk. And we hear festivities eventually, and we see a light in front of this house. And I'm like, I wonder if there's food there. So we go around back, and there's a bunch of people having a thing, and people are sitting around, and there's like white like the white plastic patio tables and chairs. People are drinking beer, and so he's playing music, and somebody comes up, and I said, "Is this a place where we can get food and beer?" And the woman was like, "Sure, sit down." And so we did. We have beer, Victoria Frost, if you're ever in El Salvador, Nicaragua. Victoria Frost is great beer. And she was like, "We don't really have a menu, but my husband caught fish today. Do you guys like fish?" Sure. So then they bring us this platter eventually. One full fish fried, caught that the morning, hand pressed tortillas, guacamole made from avocados picked off the tree, fresh sliced jalapenos, different types of salsa, rice. And we sat there and we ate this food and drank beer and listened to music. And it was so transformative. It was such a absolutely beautifully crystallized moment of everything coming together, where you can have this experience of food that's love, food that's culture, food that's excitement, right? All the things that food can be, the possibilities of food. So yeah, that
moment really captured everything that food should be that you mentioned in the beginning. They got a 5-star on that one.
Absolutely. And that honestly is the meal, because before that I had left working in community rehab. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. Mike and I went to Burning Man, and then we went to Central America for 6 months. And it was that trip, that meal,
Wow,
that really propelled me into my decision to pursue food as a career.
and you don't know what the restaurant's called, so you can't call and be like, "You literally changed my destiny."
It was not a restaurant. It was just a house of the community where people gathered.
That's amazing. I hope one day you can go back and find that place, but maybe drive there and be like, "Hey guys, thanks so much." Like it's amazing how every experience really does kind of almost can change your direction, can inspire you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And and we have experience, and it's not impactful. It doesn't land. It's not the right moment for that piece of information, because we walk through a whole day having experiences that don't change the trajectory of things. But then sometimes this magical thing happens where the right piece of information at the right moment just hits in the right spot, and then suddenly
Also, I think like because you were ready too. I do think it's like when you have all the stuff to execute the next thing, everything to that point totally was like almost like you could handle this stress level to really enter your passion, which was food, in that industry with a lot of men. And it is a very, very physically, mentally, everything demanding job. I was going to ask if you could give some people an idea of the best cocktail they should try at home.
Oh, this is such a really good question. So
two. That means I had two.
I love cocktails in this way that made me quit drinking cocktails a couple of years ago.
It's just too good.
But
yeah.
So I'm a purist. I don't like all of this crazy cocktail. That's very, very cute.
I feel like I should have done this from the beginning. So can we start again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hi guys, this is Jessie King, and she's gonna talk to us now that I look more stylish. Like this is what I should have done. I should have just listened to Kim Kardashian from the beginning because she does this. Well, no, I'm sure her stylist does. Oh, that's too much. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, you're purist in the sense. That's why I need.
You have to commit.
Okay, I'm committed. Just quickly, just to wrap it up, tell the two or your 3 top restaurants in Calgary that people should try.
Okay.
That's still open, hopefully, because man.
Okay, see, this is such a really tough question right now because there hasn't really been restaurants.
I know.
Happening.
Before, can you go pre-pandemic?
Yeah. Um,
Did you hear any feedback from the guy who was on Final Table? He had that amazing restaurant he literally just opened that you
eight.
told me about. Eight.
Eight. I don't know what happened with that, but I would definitely say that Shokunin
Yes. Owned by
would
Deb.
be on that list.
What's his name again? The owner?
Uh, um, Darren
Darren.
Darren McLean.
Okay. He's from Calgary too.
Yeah. Uh, that is a great, very, very great restaurant. I so I'm gonna give you a mix. There is so my other fine dining pick, because I'm a traditionalist,
Yes.
would be Dean House.
Yes. Which I still have to try.
So they really knock it out of the park for traditional. If you want to go and drop some cash on a meal, Dean House, the service, the cocktails, the pace of the
Experience.
meal,
Yeah.
all of these things, they've really, so they have the right people in the right spots doing the right thing. They have their strategic systems worked out, and it shows in the experience. So there are a lot of fine dining restaurants in Calgary where they've got a really talented chef at the helm, but the systems aren't in place.
Interesting. And that's what
So
I usually
Dean
think what you
House,
think too.
I would say that the systems,
Okay.
yeah. And then I have to say, I like hole in the wall mom and pop restaurants. There is an Indian restaurant called Guru. It's in Millrise.
Okay. I'm gonna go
And
tonight. Thank you.
yeah,
I love East Indian.
absolutely fabulous. Somebody in that kitchen, all the people in that kitchen, dude, they're cooking from their heart. It is very good Indian
Shout
food.
out to Guru in Millrise, Calgary.
Yeah.
Holy, I cannot wait. Would you ever see yourself as a food critic, or we're just not even? Would you ever do that? And like when you're like 80 and bored?
Yeah.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. That was a stupid question. Next good question. How do you think the dining experience is going to change
Oh,
pandemic?
that is a really, really great question. And this is something that I am working with a lot, because when the pandemic first started, I was working a lot with how to make a menu
Yes.
executable with a small staff, and then also putting food items on the menu that were deliverable. How is this food going to taste in an hour? Right? It's a different experience. The food, is not going from the pass to the table. It's going into a styrofoam container, into a bag, into a car, right? This is a different thing. You still need that food to arrive to the customer delicious. This is a different menu. You're not going to put calamari on that menu. I mean, you can, but and people
Or eggs Benedict.
Right. So this is a whole new way of thinking about your menu. But now I think it's going to change again, because I don't think there is going to be a return to post-pandemic-ness fully. I think that we're entering sort of a new normal. And that I think that the dine-in food industry in a year from now, we haven't really seen the fallout. And this is true in all business. This is true in all families. We haven't really seen the fallout fully, because we have a government who is, for all of their downfalls, really putting money into the pockets of Canadians, into the pockets of business, as well as they can. And so we don't know what the wreckage is going to look like after those checks stop flowing, and they will. So I think that the way that the food industry will look in a year from now is going to be totally different than anything we've seen before. What that's going to look like, I really don't know.
That'll be part 2 with Jesse King.
That'll be
when we
perfect.
talk about the fallout, but hopefully only positive things bloom from there. It was so amazing talking to you. I feel like this segment is going to be called Food Magic with Jessie, or the Serial Entrepreneur.
Yes.
Is that what you want?
No, either of those things will do. But you told me that you were going to ask me.
Oh gosh.
The advice that I would give to my 15-year-old self.
Yes.
And this
Jessie, I would like to ask you, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
2 pieces of advice. For my 18-year-old self and for girls, all young girls, 2 pieces of advice. You are not broken. You are fine. The things about you that are challenging are the things that will propel you into success. And be fearless. Girls, young girls especially, we have so much fear in us. Young girls and 45-year-old girls, right? There's a lot of fear. And I think that once we are operating in our life from a place of love, and love is fearlessness, love is anything that isn't fear in my mind. So once you come to a place where you're not operating from a place of fear, then really everything is open to you. Everything is possible.
I love that. Love is fearlessness. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That could be a book of, like, if you write a book soon. Love is fearlessness. And then I think the other fun question you wanted me to ask was, where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
Honestly?
No, for fake. Oh, I thought it was. I thought you.
Get up on the spot.
Honestly? Yeah. No. Okay, ready.
Honestly? My intention in the next 2 years is to buy a piece of land with my husband. So when we were in Central America, again, we stayed in this avocado farm, and all of the rooms were these little A-frame tree houses. And there were travelers from all over the world, and you would come here and you would have your little thing. And then in the evening, you could pay a few bucks and have a communal meal that the woman and, well, the husband and wife that owned it would create, and people would eat together. I really, really love this idea expressed in a Canadian way. So I have a dream of having a huge piece of land that has a bunch of little independent standing cabins where people can come. Yeah, and eat food and be together and experience Canada, which is an amazing country, by the way.
That's awesome. Well, that was lovely. And I can't wait to hear about that dream happening, because I think it's a beautiful dream. And you really inspired me, actually. So thank you. I took notes. Oh, that's my lipstick. Oh, that's drawings. I did take notes. I'm going to go eat at Guru tonight. I'm going to try to live more fearlessly.
Get the tikka chicken.
Okay.
Yeah. It's absolutely fantastic. And get the fish pakora.
Oh my gosh, I love fish pakora. Are they open for lunch?
I don't know, but can I tell you one thing? Double check your naan, because they always forget mine.
Okay, make sure
not.
Sure you get.
No shade. But
no, we still love them.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Jessie. Anything else you want to say that you feel is of value that I missed?
No, I want to say you look great. Truly.
Well, thanks for saving my butt here.
Yeah. And I think that you're doing a really, really cool thing. I love women just figuring out a thing that inspires them and doing it. So kudos to you, sister.
Thanks, Honeybean. We'll talk very soon, and I'm coming over for an old fashioned.
Okay.
Lots of love to you. Bye, Jessie. Thanks, honey.
Bye-bye.